Part 6. The hallway leading to Tay's office felt longer than usual, your footsteps muffled by the thick carpet beneath your heels. The weight of anticipation settled heavily on your shoulders as you paused in front of the double doors. You took a deep breath, steadied your nerves, and knocked lightly. "Come in," Tay's voice came through the doors, smooth and commanding. You pushed the door open and stepped inside. Tay sat behind his massive oak desk, bathed in the soft golden light filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him. He was leaning back in his leather chair, his dark suit sharp and perfectly tailored, as always. His piercing eyes lifted from the documents in front of him, locking onto yours the moment you stepped in. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "YN," he said softly, his voice holding a warmth that contrasted with the sharp edge of his usual tone. "You're back." You clutched your notebook tightly against your chest, your throat feeling a little dry. "I just got in a little while ago." He gestured to the plush chair across from him. "Sit." You carefully lowered yourself into the seat, your notebook resting on your lap as you tried to maintain a calm exterior, despite the way his gaze seemed to cut right through you. "Did you enjoy your time with your family?" he asked, leaning forward slightly, his elbows resting on the desk. His question caught you off guard. The genuine concern in his tone made something warm bloom in your chest. "I did," you said softly. "Thank you for asking." For a moment, silence settled over the room. His intense gaze studied you, searching for something hidden beneath the surface. "Good," he finally said, his voice dropping slightly. "You needed that break." You nodded, unsure of what to say next. But then, his smile shifted, less sharp, more teasing. "Did you miss me, little kitty?" Your face grew hot instantly, and you fumbled for a response. I. His soft chuckle reverberated in the quiet room, and your embarrassment deepened. "Relax, YN. I'm just teasing." You let out a shaky breath, trying to calm your racing heart. "Let's talk business," Tay said, his playful smirk fading as his expression turned serious. He leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on the polished wood of his desk, his sharp gaze locking onto yours. "I have something important for you to handle." You nodded, clutching your notebook tightly, waiting for him to continue. "This isn't just any project, YN," he began, his voice steady but firm. "It's exclusive, it's delicate, and it requires complete discretion." Your brows furrowed slightly as you tried to decipher the weight in his tone. He paused, as if carefully considering his next words, before continuing. "Do you know Park Hyung-sik?" Your eyes widened slightly. "The actor?" "Of course, everyone knows Park Hyung-sik. He's one of the biggest stars in the country." Tay's lips curved into a faint smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. "He's also my cousin." You blinked. "Your cousin?" "Yes," Tay said, his tone softer now. "And he's my favorite cousin, to be precise. Hyung-sik has always been family first, even before fame." You nodded slowly, absorbing this new piece of information. "He's preparing for an upcoming global press tour for his new drama. It's going to be massive, multiple countries, high-profile interviews, and red carpet events. He needs someone to design his wardrobe for the entire tour. Every suit, every casual look, every detail has to be perfect. And he wants you to be that someone." Your breath caught in your throat. "Me?" Tay's eyes didn't waver. "Yes, you." You glanced down at your notebook, your heart pounding. Designing clothes for someone of Park Hyung-sik's caliber wasn't just a project, it was a career-defining opportunity. Are you sure?" you asked hesitantly. There are so many designers out there with more experience." "No," Tay's voice cut through your self-doubt. "He asked for you specifically." You froze. "But, how does he even know about me?" Tay leaned back in his chair, a faint smirk returning to his lips. "Let's just say I've spoken highly of you. Your designs are sharp, your attention to detail is unmatched, and, most importantly, I trust you. Those last 3 words lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. I trust you, YN, he repeated, softer this time. Your cheeks flushed slightly under his intense gaze, and you quickly scribbled something, anything, into your notebook to break the eye contact. Tay stood and walked around his desk, coming to lean against its edge right in front of you. His proximity made the air between you feel charged, but his focus remained unwavering. Here's the deal, he said. You'll work directly with Hyung-sik. You'll meet him, discuss his preferences, and create designs that not only suit his style, but also align with the image he wants to project during this tour. You nodded, scribbling notes furiously. There will be fittings, last-minute adjustments, and possibly some travel involved, Tay continued. I'll ensure you have everything you need, resources, fabrics, assistance, whatever it takes. Your head was spinning slightly from the enormity of the task. But, Tay said, his voice firm again, this project stays between us. No one else at the office can know. Not anyone. You looked up at him, confusion evident on your face. Why all the secrecy? Because this isn't just about fashion, Tay said, his gaze darkening slightly. It's about reputation. Hyung-sik is under constant public scrutiny. One leak, one misstep, and the media will tear him apart. I won't let that happen. You swallowed, understanding the weight of what he was saying. I'll handle it with complete discretion, you said softly. I know you will, Tay said, his expression softening slightly. That's why I chose you. Your internal conflict. As the conversation settled, the magnitude of the task fully hit you. You'd be designing outfits for an international star, Tay's cousin, someone deeply important to him. But more than that, Tay's trust in you wasn't just professional, it felt personal. The way he spoke, the way his gaze lingered on you, it felt like he was entrusting you with something fragile, something precious. Tay, you said hesitantly, surprising even yourself by using his name. Are you sure about this? I don't want to let you down. He tilted his head slightly, his dark hair falling over his forehead as he studied you. Then, he pushed off the edge of the desk and took a step closer to you. You won't let me down, YN, he said softly. I know you won't. The way he said your name sent shivers down your spine, but before you could dwell on it, he stepped back and returned to his desk. I'll have my assistant send you Hyung-sik's schedule and initial preferences, Tay said, his professional demeanor snapping back into place. Start preparing as soon as possible. You stood, clutching your notebook. Understood. I won't let you down. He smirked faintly. And, little kitty? You paused at the door, glancing back at him. Don't overthink it. You've got this. You gave him a faint smile, before slipping out of his office, your heart hammering in your chest. As you walked down the empty hallway back to the private elevator, your thoughts raced. This wasn't just a project, it was the project. A career-defining moment. But it was also more than that. It was Tay's trust, his confidence in you, and, dare you admit it, a level of protectiveness that felt deeply personal. When the elevator doors closed, you let out a shaky breath and leaned against the mirrored wall. Okay, YN, you whispered to yourself. You've got this. The doors opened on your office floor, and you stepped out, clutching your notebook as if it held the weight of the world. From across the room, Emma's sharp eyes caught yours again. But this time, your focus wasn't on her, it was on the monumental task ahead. And somewhere in the back of your mind, Tay's voice echoed softly, I trust you. This wasn't just a project. This was your chance to prove yourself, not just to Tay, but to yourself. And deep down, you couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. You sat down, your phone buzzing with yet another message. Tay, don't overwork yourself. I'll see you soon, little kitty. You quickly turned your phone face down, your heart racing in your chest. From across the room, Emma's sharp gaze flickered to your phone, her expression a mask of barely concealed anger. The lines had been drawn, and you could feel the tension thickening with every passing second. The days blurred into nights as you threw yourself into the project with every ounce of your being. Your desk became a chaotic masterpiece, a sea of fabric swatches, rough sketches, and color palettes scattered everywhere. Draft after draft filled your sketchbooks, and your computer screen was permanently open to design software, with reference photos of Park Hyung-sik pinned up on your corkboard. Every detail mattered: the cut of the suits, the color schemes for red carpet events, the fabric choices for travel days, and even casual looks that needed to balance comfort and style. You rarely left your workspace except for short breaks, and sleep became a luxury you couldn't afford. But despite the exhaustion, you felt alive. This project wasn't just work, it was a challenge, a dream, and a responsibility wrapped into one. Emma had noticed your sudden change in behavior. She had always been observant, and the way you worked tirelessly without sharing details about your project drove her curiosity and jealousy to new heights. "YN, what exactly are you working on?" Emma asked one morning, leaning casually against your desk, a fake smile plastered on her face. You quickly flipped your sketchpad closed. "Just a private project. Mr. V's orders." Her smile twitched. "A private project? And you're reporting directly to him?" You nodded carefully, avoiding her sharp gaze. Emma's lips pursed. "Well, don't overwork yourself, sweetheart. Wouldn't want you burning out before you can impress our oh-so-powerful boss." With that, she walked away, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. You sighed, rubbing your temples. You couldn't afford distractions, not now. It was a crisp afternoon when you finally felt ready to show your drafts to Tae. Your stomach was tight with nerves as you clutched your large portfolio folder, filled with weeks of hard work. "Mr. V asked to see you," Jean said as you approached the private elevator. "He's expecting you for lunch." You nodded gratefully, stepping into the elevator. When the doors opened to his office floor, you found Tae seated at the long glass conference table, a light lunch spread before him: grilled chicken salad, fresh fruit, and a steaming cup of coffee. "Right on time, little kitty," he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. You took a deep breath and walked over, placing your folder carefully on the table. "Lunch first," Tae said firmly, pointing at the food. "You've lost weight, haven't you?" You hesitated. "I've just been busy." "Eat," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. You picked at the salad nervously while Tae sipped his coffee, watching you with an unreadable expression. "All right," he said after a moment, placing his mug down. "Show me what you've got." You carefully opened your folder, spreading the designs across the table. Each page showcased a different concept. Red carpet look, a classic yet modern suit in deep midnight blue, with subtle embroidery along the lapel. Press conference look, a smart three-piece ensemble with neutral tones to exude confidence and approachability. Casual travel look, tailored, relaxed pieces with breathable fabrics for long flights. Special event look, a bold yet sophisticated outfit for high-profile gatherings. As Tae flipped through the sketches, his brows furrowed slightly in concentration. He studied each design carefully, occasionally nodding or humming in approval. "These are impressive," he said finally, looking up at you. You exhaled a breath you didn't realize you were holding. "Thank you. But they're not perfect yet," he continued, tapping one sketch with his finger. "This fabric might not photograph well under harsh lights. And here, Hyung-sik likes softer collars for casual looks. He hates anything too stiff." You quickly scribbled notes as he pointed out adjustments. Despite his critical eye, his guidance was constructive and patient. "You're on the right track, YN, he said softly. "This isn't an easy project, but you're handling it well." His praise made your cheeks warm, and you ducked your head slightly. "Thank you, Tae," you said quietly, the name slipping out before you could stop yourself. His lips twitched into a smirk, but he didn't comment on it. After going over the designs, Tae leaned back in his chair, stretching slightly. "It's time for the next step," he said. "I want you to contact Hyung-sik's manager directly. Arrange a meeting, preferably this week." Your eyes widened slightly. "Me?" Directly? Yes, he said firmly. This project is yours, YN. You've earned this responsibility. But, what if I mess it up, you said softly, doubt creeping in despite your efforts to stay confident. You won't, Tay said, his voice steady. And if you do, I'll be right here to guide you. The way he said it, with such certainty, made something warm settle in your chest. He slid a sleek, black business card across the table. This has the manager's direct contact information. Call him tomorrow morning and set up a meeting. You took the card carefully, as if it were made of glass. Understood, you said with a determined nod. As you began gathering your designs back into the folder, Tay spoke up again. YN. You looked up. You're doing well, he said softly. Better than I expected, even. You froze briefly, your heart skipping a beat at the rare softness in his voice. Tay, you started, but the words died on your tongue. His phone buzzed on the table, breaking the moment. Tay glanced at the screen briefly, before sighing. Duty calls, he said, standing up and grabbing his blazer. You can stay here if you want to finalize your notes. You nodded, giving him a small smile. Don't overthink it, he said one last time, before disappearing into the hallway. Left alone in his office, you spread your designs out again on the glass table. The city skyline stretched out beyond the window, the golden hues of the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the room. You let out a long breath, your fingers grazing the edge of the business card Tay had given you. Contact the manager. Set up the meeting. Make this project shine. The weight of the responsibility felt heavy, but Tay's voice echoed in your mind, you've earned this responsibility. You can handle it. You smiled faintly, gathering your things and standing up. As you stepped into the private elevator, your heart pounded, not with fear, but with anticipation. Tomorrow, you'd take the next step. And you were ready. The next morning, you sat at your desk, with Tay's instructions running through your mind. The sleek black business card he'd handed you rested in front of you. Printed in gold letters was the name, Manager Kim Dae-hyun, Park Hyung-sik Management Team, and a direct contact number. Your hand shook slightly as you picked up your phone and dialed. The call connected after 2 rings. Manager Kim speaking. Hello, Manager Kim. This is YN from King's Cooperation. I've been tasked by Mr. V to coordinate Park Hyung-sik's upcoming design project. There was a brief silence, followed by a professional yet warm response. Miss YN. Mr. V mentioned you might call. How can I assist you? Relief washed over you as you explained the project and requested an in-person meeting. Manager Kim listened attentively and finally said, Mr. Park is currently in town. I'll arrange for him to meet you and Mr. V in his private office tomorrow at noon. After exchanging pleasantries, you hung up and exhaled a shaky breath. The first step was done. When you informed Tay later that day, he nodded approvingly. Good work, little kitty. Be prepared, Hyung-sik can be a handful. You raised an eyebrow, but Tay only smirked, leaving you with more questions than answers. The following morning felt surreal. You arrived at the office earlier than usual, carrying your carefully revised designs in a sleek leather portfolio. Your outfit, a polished yet stylish pantsuit, was meticulously chosen, balancing professionalism with your natural style. As the clock ticked closer to noon, you made your way to Tay's private office. Jean greeted you with a knowing grin. They're on their way up, he said. Inside the private office, Tay was already seated at the conference table, a tablet in front of him. His sharp suit and calm demeanor gave him an aura of authority that made your stomach flutter slightly. Nervous? He asked, glancing up at you. You nodded honestly. A little. Good. That means you care about the outcome. Before you could respond, the sound of the private elevator dinged. Your heart jumped as the doors slid open. Park Hyung-sik stepped into the office with an easy confidence that only true stars carried. Dressed in a tailored black blazer over a crisp white shirt, he looked effortlessly charming. His smile was wide and infectious as his eyes scanned the room. Hyung. Tae greeted, standing up and walking over to shake his cousin's hand. Tae. Hyung-sik said brightly, pulling Tae into a brief hug. It's been too long, cousin. You stood frozen near the table, clutching your designs and portfolio tightly. Hyung-sik's sharp eyes shifted to you, and his smile widened mischievously. And this must be YN, right? You blinked, surprised he knew your name. Why yes, Mr. Park. It's an honor to meet you. Please, just call me Hyung-sik, he said with a wink, striding over and offering his hand. You shook it hesitantly, your cheeks slightly flushed. As the meeting progressed, you presented your designs with a steady voice, pointing out key details and explaining your creative choices. You spread out your designs on the table, carefully explaining each piece to Hyung-sik. He listened attentively, occasionally asking questions and providing input about his preferences, occasionally shooting Tae amused glances that you couldn't quite interpret. When you finished, Hyung-sik clapped his hands together. YN, these are incredible. I can see why Tae trusts you with this project, he said after reviewing the final sketch. You've managed to capture exactly what I wanted without even meeting me before. That's impressive. Your cheeks warmed at the compliment. Thank you, Hyung-sik. I put a lot of thought into each piece. Tae watched the interaction silently, his sharp eyes flicking between the two of you. All right, Hyung-sik said, leaning back in his chair. When do we start fittings? You glanced at Tae, unsure of the next steps. Tae? Hyung-sik prompted, raising an eyebrow. We'll coordinate with your schedule, Tae said smoothly. YN will handle the fitting arrangements directly with your team. Perfect, Hyung-sik said, flashing you another warm smile. Hyung-sik leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his sharp eyes glinting with mischief. So, Tae, he began casually. You didn't tell me your designer was this talented. Tae shot him a warning look. Hyung-sik. But Hyung-sik wasn't done. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice conspiratorially, though still loud enough for you to hear. Be honest with me, cousin. Is she my future sister-in-law? Your brain short-circuited. Tae froze, his usual composed expression cracking for the first time since she'd met him. A faint blush crept up his neck, and his sharp jawline seemed to clench slightly. Hyung-sik, Tae said through gritted teeth, his voice low and warning. Your mouth hung open slightly, your cheeks burning hotter than the sun. Hyung-sik laughed, clearly enjoying Tae's discomfort. Oh, come on. Look at him, YN. I've never seen Tae like this before. He's actually blushing. You couldn't bring yourself to look at Tae. Your hands were clammy, and your heart was racing so fast it felt like it might burst out of your chest. Hyung-sik, enough, Tae said firmly, his voice carrying a rare sharpness. Hyung-sik held up his hands in mock surrender, still grinning like a Cheshire cat. All right. I'll stop, for now. The meeting wrapped up soon after, with Hyung-sik and Ji-hun making arrangements to finalize details in the coming weeks. As they left, Hyung-sik gave Tae a quick hug and turned to you with another bright smile. YN, it was a pleasure meeting you, he said warmly. I'm really looking forward to wearing your designs. Thank you, Hyung-sik. I'll make sure everything is perfect. As he turned to leave, he threw one last glance at Tae. Take care of her, cousin. Hyung-sik, Tae said, warning in his tone again. But Hyung-sik just laughed and waved as he exited the office. As the elevator doors closed behind Hyung-sik, you let out a long breath you hadn't realized you'd been holding. And silence filled the room. You chanced a glance at Tae, who was rubbing the back of his neck, a rare sight of nervousness. So, you said awkwardly, your voice barely above a whisper. Tae sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Hyung-sik can be overly enthusiastic sometimes. You nodded quickly, clutching your portfolio to your chest. It's fine. Really? I'm sure he was just joking. Tae looked at you then, his dark eyes meeting yours with an intensity that made your breath catch. YN, he started, his voice softer now, but before he could finish, his phone buzzed on the table. You took it as your cue to leave. I should go back to my desk. Before he could stop you, you spun around and hurried to the door, your heart still racing. As the elevator doors closed behind you, you leaned against the wall, letting out a shaky breath. Sister-in-law? You couldn't stop your heart from fluttering at the thought. And somewhere in his office, Tae was probably staring out the window, his thoughts just as tangled as yours. The project was moving forward, but something intangible was growing between you and Tae. In next part. Wait, what? Jungkook blinked, leaning forward. You mean? YN? Tae nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the floor. Yeah. Her. Hoseok let out a low whistle and sat back in his chair. Well, damn. Didn't expect to hear that tonight. Jungkook let out a low laugh, running a hand through his hair. Man, Tae, this is, wow. But man. I can't believe Kim Taeyoung, the cold, intimidating mafia boss, is scared of a girl. Hoseok snorted, covering his mouth to hide his laugh. Shut up, Tae muttered, glaring at them. Hey! Dear viewers. This is my dear diary. We're always looking to share more stories and novels. If you like our video, please subscribe to our channel. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions are my biggest motivation. More exciting and interesting novels updated every day.